You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Pistons fall in Orlando. Final score against the Magic, 121-113. Welcome into a live Locked On Pistons Postcast. I'm your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. A chippy game in this one for sure. 6 technical fouls. JB Bickerstaff ejected, and a fourth quarter to forget for the Pistons as the Magic got hot, in particular Franz Wagner, and then go ahead and add Paolo Banchero as well. Those two combined for 64 points. And this one in the Pistons, who had been playing really good on the road, fall to the Magic. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what it means all around for this Detroit Pistons team and how chippy that game was. And, of course, we'll wrap it up with our studs and duds. That's all coming up on a live Locked On Pistons Postcast. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Happy to have you along on Locked On Sports Detroit, where we have a post-game reaction show for you on Locked On Sports Detroit. So make sure you subscribe. Post-game shows right here, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. Don't forget, your favorite podcast also has a newsletter. You got to go to LockedOnDaily.com for that. Sign up to get the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. It's your one-stop shop, and it's delivered right to your inbox, and it's all for free at LockedOnDaily.com. LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. Don't forget that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to get started. And kind of an interesting game. By interesting, I just mean out of rhythm, clunky, and so many whistles in this one. I was watching some of the post game before I jumped on because I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one that watched this game thinking, okay, another review, another technical foul, another guys jawing after the whistle. And I guess the way it started with Tobias Harris and Suggs mixing it up literally in the opening minutes of this one should have been a pretty good indication of the game that we were in for. And speaking of Tobias Harris, he leaves with that head injury and did not return. So unfortunate in a game of this magnitude for the Pistons to be without Tobias Harris. And I say this magnitude because these are two teams vying for similar stances in the Eastern Conference standings right now. And the Pistons have been playing really good on the road, and the Magic had been struggling. And so definitely one that the Magic wanted to get in their own building, and they do. But it was quite the atmosphere for this one. Both Blaha and some of the post-game show guys, as well as Greg Kelser, said that, if these two teams end up meeting in the postseason, it was the final meeting of the regular season, but a little bit of a rivalry forming between these two. I mean, you saw, like I said, JB Bickerstaff get ejected. Of course, Isaiah Stewart was mixing it up at one point. Banchero was yelling quite a bit. I thought he could have been teed up sooner. Then I think he did end up getting a technical, but point being, it was really chippy. Every play was being reviewed. And it was just kind of a clunky game that had no rhythm to it. And in the end, it's the Magic that outlasts the Pistons, and largely because of that fourth quarter run. I mean, the Magic start the fourth quarter on a 20-4 run, and that's where this game got away from the Pistons. They did mount a comeback and got it all the way down to a 4-point game with 3 minutes to go. And Franz Wagner just continued to heat up in the fourth quarter. He hit a 3 to put the Magic back up by 7. And then turning point, and not even turning point, but where the comeback completely fell short and you knew that the Magic were going to hold on for this one, is when Beasley went 1 of 3 on free throws after he was fouled shooting a 3 and could have put it back to a 4-point game. Instead, it stays a 5-point game, and the Magic just continued their scoring fest in that fourth quarter, with Franz Wagner scoring 25 fourth quarter points. And as I mentioned, he and Banchero combined to score 64. So tough night for the Pistons, especially because they've been playing so well on the road. Oddly enough, no team had a better road record since December the 21st, where the Pistons had won 8 of their last 9 on the road. But that comes to an end tonight. and the Pistons will look to bounce back. Still been a good road trip for Detroit, 2-1 on that road trip. If you would have said, listen, you got the Rockets, you got the Hawks, you got the Magic, you're going to win 2 or 3 of those. I think a lot of us would have signed up for that. But big one on Monday against the Cavs, who are coming off a loss to Philadelphia. But the Cavs have been so good, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then the road trip wraps up with that game in Indianapolis against the Pacers Wednesday night. But tonight, the Magic take the season series because this was the rubber match. And even though the Pistons started their kind of run here in 2025, the first game of the new year, of the new calendar year with the win over the Magic, they get the better half tonight. And a big reason why that fourth quarter, they outscore the Pistons 42-32 in that fourth quarter frame, which included a 20-4 run. That being said, appreciate everybody tuning in to a live Locked On Pistons postcast. We're going to get to your comments in just a moment. Always love to chop it up. That is also part of the purpose of our live Locked On Pistons postcast show, where we chop it up with everyone. So feel free to use that comment function on the YouTube. A little housekeeping programming note: we will continue to have Locked On Pistons postcast and get you ready for all things Detroit Tigers, because the Tiger season is right around the corner. We won't talk about the NFL because, my goodness, it's so sad. Lions lost to the Commanders and failed to make the NFC Championship. That game is tomorrow, and a bummer that we are not gearing up for a Locked On Lions postcast. But as always, appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit, because we are getting closer and closer to 2,000 subscribers. When we launched this channel less than a year ago under the Locked On umbrella, had all kinds of high expectations and hope for growth, and we have continued that, which is a testament to each and every one of you, which I so sincerely appreciate. Let's get into some of those comments before we take our first break. Mr. My City, love JB's passion and no nonsense approach. It did seem to fire up the Pistons when he was ejected, because that's when they made that surge in the fourth quarter to get it down to 4 points. And if it weren't for Franz Wagner, I think he was 5 of 5 from the 3-point line in that fourth quarter alone, or 4 of 4, my apologies, but 25 fourth quarter points. If Franz Wagner doesn't heat up the way he did, I'm not so sure the Pistons don't come back and steal this one. And the technical foul from Bickerstaff certainly lit a fire under this Pistons team in that fourth quarter, which you love to see. And yeah, I would completely agree that JB Bickerstaff as a whole, just no nonsense. You know what you're going to get, and he's really brought that out in this Pistons team as well. I also thought Jamal Mosley, he from his, it was just a very intense regular season game, the way he was coaching it, the way JB Bickerstaff was coaching it, the chippiness on the floor, the bodies falling, the lengthy reviews. It just had a lot of makings of, hey, these are two teams really going at it. And for what it lacked in flow, because of all that, as far as game flow, made up for the intensity of a regular season game in January. But that's my 2 cents. Demetrius McNeil is up next. Jake, once upon a time, this was a 12-point lead for the Pistons. Next thing you know, a 20-4 run by the Magic. Might as well look forward to the Cavaliers on Monday night. You're right, Demetrius. And I thought it was interesting. Cade Cunningham had to start the fourth quarter on the bench, and that's exactly when the Magic made their run to start that fourth quarter. Cade was on the bench, and it was like the floodgates opened, and all of a sudden the Magic just surged in front, and Cade's helplessly looking on from the bench. And I know fouls contributed to that, but Cade and Tobias being out, also, another mainstay from the Pistons lineup that wasn't in this one down the stretch. So a number of things that led to that, but I completely agree. It was tough to watch at the beginning of that fourth quarter. Rock Howard wants to see JB's comments after the game. Yeah, that's why I hopped on a little bit later, because I too wanted to see what JB Bickerstaff had to say, and he didn't really go into a ton of detail. And I got to watch it back, to be honest. I was typing up the graphics and the other stuff while he was making his post-game comments, but essentially, felt like that the officials were taking a role in the game and making, having an impact on the outcome of the game, and making their, I guess for lack of a better term, making their presence felt more than the officiating crew should. That's kind of what had him upset in this one. But in the end, it's a win for the Orlando Magic. It's a loss for the Pistons, just their second road loss in 11 games on the road. So just a testament to the road warriors that this Detroit Pistons team has been. Let's look back at that road schedule that's been really impressive, going all the way back to early December, because a lot of this started when the Pistons went on that West Coast road trip starting on December 21st with a win over the Suns. That included a win over the Lakers the December 23rd, and then that come from behind win over the Kings the day after Christmas that ended up getting Mike Brown fired from the Sacramento. And then they did lose to the Nuggets on that Saturday, December the 28th, but then right back on the road with wins over the Hornets and in that stretch, a win over the Nets on the road, as well as the New York Knicks, 124-119 back on January the 13th. And then this present trip right now with wins over the Rockets, Hawks, and then losing to the Magic, 121-113. So I think if you look at it from a large collective look, high level view, they're playing really good basketball on the road. And still in sixth in the Eastern Conference standings ahead of Orlando there. So appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll take a quick break here. And when we come back, I want to talk about some of the individual performances and what the chippiness of this game could mean. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started on a live Locked On Pistons Postcast. This episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winning. So whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Pistons Postcast here on Locked On Sports Detroit. Happy to have you along. Make sure you subscribe and go ahead and like today's video as well. That helps us out a great deal. Pistons fall to the Orlando Magic, 121-113. Let's talk about some of the individual performances. Asar Thompson, I thought, was really good tonight. 16 points for him. He was +3 and 6 of 8 from the floor. So very efficient as well. Chipped in with 5 rebounds and 4 steals. So very active on the defensive end as well. You could see he was a guy that was providing a spark for the Detroit Pistons tonight with the way that he played. Got to talk about Cade as well. Took 31 shots, 13 of 31 from the floor, just 2 of 7 from the long line, but got it done at the foul line, 7 of 7 from the stripe, 35 points, +4 for the day. Go ahead and add 11 assists as well. Did turn the ball over 5 times, but I really thought Cade Cunningham was really good. Better in the second half. Early, I wouldn't say he struggled earlier, but as far as points, but he was looking for the assists and distributing the ball really well early on in this one. 18 points off the bench for Malik Beasley. He was +10, 6 of 13 from the floor, 4 of 8 from the long line, and he was starting to get some get it going from deep when the Pistons were mounting that comeback in that fourth quarter. And the way the Pistons closed the first quarter, really a testament to how well Malik Beasley played. He hit a shot down the stretch there, but Detroit actually outscored Orlando 30-18 in that opening frame, but Orlando came back strong in the second half or in the second quarter and had a lead at the halftime break. But it all ends up with a 121-113 loss for the Pistons. Some other notes I had in this one, as far as takeaways. Tobias with that injury, like I said, he kind of set the tone, Tobias Harris, early in this game, mixing it up with Suggs. I mean, that was, I think it was still within the first 2 minutes of the game, it was the forearm shiver sending Suggs down. And that just, again, was an indication of how this game was going to be. It was going to be chippy. It was going to be physical. And then the mix up with Isaiah Stewart in front of the Magic bench. That's part turning into what this team, it's what they're about, in the sense that it's a no nonsense mindset from the Detroit Pistons, and you're not going to mess with them. So that being said, I think as long as it turns into wins, you're all for it. And it doesn't cost you, because there have been times this season where, and I speak to Isaiah Stewart all the time on this, so I guess I have to include it with everybody else, but it just seems like the Pistons get too caught up in that and aren't able to then compound it into positive energy to, make winning plays on the floor. Because in the end, that's what it's all about. And winning can take on many different angles. They look a lot differently, but that's what you're looking for from your team to play winning basketball. And I don't think it's not that the effort wasn't there tonight for the Pistons. It's Orlando got hot in the fourth quarter, and Franz Wagner and Banchero really took it to Detroit from offensively, and the floodgates opened in that fourth quarter. So got to bounce back in the next opportunity to do so, in a big one, a measuring stick game to see how the Pistons fare against the Eastern Conference's best in the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that tips off Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. Let me make sure. Actually, you know what? I apologize. Monday night. I'm getting ahead of myself. Wow. Wednesday night is the Pacers game. My apologies. So Monday night tips off at 7 o'clock, Pistons and Cavaliers. Don't go anywhere. We've got one more segment to tie a bow on it. It's our studs and duds. But before we go any further, one more comment from Still I Rise. We got this. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. The Pistons, I don't think tonight's one of those nights you go scratching your head wondering, does this team have what it takes? I think they showed they have what it takes to be competitive, but some nights you fall short. Still Our Eyes says Cade is the GOAT. Pistons with all respect to G Hill and IT. I don't know if I'm quite there. We'll get into a little bit of a debate, but I think Cade is well on his way to cementing his legacy. But no, he's got to win a heck of a lot more, and have a heck of a lot more accomplishments to start being in the same conversation as those guys. There's a very, very long and prestigious list of all-time Pistons greats, and Cade's not quite there yet. I believe he'll get there, but he's not there yet, with all due respect. All right, studs and duds when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting going on a live Locked On Pistons Postcast. This episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is brought to you by Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider. It makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. Let me say that again, because that's very important. It makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your own home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80 SPACE80 to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code SPACE80 space 80. Pistons fall to the Magic, and they'll look to bounce back against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's coming up on Monday night. JB Bickerstaff ejected in this one. But for our studs and duds, as always, if you've got your studs and duds, get them in the comments. We'll always read the best studs and duds on the air. A lot of studs in this one. It was that type of game, and you got to hand it to Franz Wagner, who had 25 points in that fourth quarter. And the reason why the Magic pulled away at the end in that fourth quarter, he was fantastic. So he's going to get number one stud. And then Paolo Banchero, 32 points. He was +9 for the day, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. He was really good. And he's running his mouth. And Greg Kelser talked about that you know what, that's his style of play. And I think, again, between the Pistons and the Magic, if they meet again, you could see a lot of a rivalry forming between these two teams. But they get the upper hand today. Both of those guys with studly performances combining for 64. Cade Cunningham leading all scorers with 35 points. He was brilliant again tonight. 35 points +4 on the evening, 5 turnovers, but 11 assists for Cade Cunningham. 5 rebounds. He was 13 of 31 from the floor, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, 2 of 7 from the long line. I thought Jalen Duren was better. I'm not quite ready to give him a stud by any means. Missed a couple of layups, but a couple of lobs that he somehow, some way brought down and finished at the rim, which were really, really impressive. So he had some highlight reel plays, but overall, he's got to be better. -11 when he was on the floor. And you just want to see more work from him defensively to help this team. Asar Thompson, we talked about him in the opening, 16 points +3 on the evening. He was 6 of 8 from the floor, but the 4 steals, so impacting the game from a defensive standpoint as well. That being said, I thought the Pistons bench didn't really do a lot to help, aside from Ron Holland had 13 and Malik Beasley with 18. But other than that, Fontecchio really struggled tonight, 0 points. And I guess the 1 assist, but -18 when he was on the floor. So not getting much from him. -8 for Ron Holland, -3 for Isaiah Stewart, which is 4 points, and -10 when Marcus Sasser was on the floor. So you don't love to see that from the bench. So duds from the supporting cast there for the Detroit Pistons. Tobias Harris, let's hope he's all right, because only 17 minutes played before he was injured tonight and did not return. Kind of took that shot to the jaw area and seemed kind of dazed, and it might not. And I would take that back, just in the facial region. I didn't see exactly where it went, if the contact landed in the jaw area or where it was, but he was obviously dazed and could not get back into this game. So we'll hope he's able to go on Monday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Pistons fall to the Magic, 121-113, the final in this one. Thanks as always for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to riff about the Detroit Pistons and chat it up on our live Locked On post-game show. Always great to get the pulse from everybody that's tuning in, and even on a weekend, I appreciate the support in tuning into Locked On Sports Detroit. Wish we had a Locked On Lions postcast coming tomorrow, but alas, a difficult end to the season there. And make matters worse, Ben Johnson's on his way to be the head coach for the Chicago Bears, and Aaron Glenn, the head coach for the New York Jets. That being said, Lions did make a defensive coordinator signing. They're going to promote Kelvin Shepard, who was the linebackers coach, and he kind of made some waves as when Hard Knocks was covering the Lions a couple of years ago. Seems like he has really brought the best out in guys like Alex Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, and so on and so forth. Jack Campbell and that linebacker group for the Lions has been really, really good. So I'm excited to see how that goes, in Kelvin Shepard being the defensive coordinator for the Lions. But we'll continue continue to have Pistons Postcast for you. Our next one is Monday night after the Pistons take on the Cavaliers. Make sure you join us for that. Like today's video, subscribe to the channel, and if you missed the YouTube version, you can go ahead and check out the audio version that's posted on Locked On Pistons. And don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. It's everything you need to know. It's delivered right to your inbox for free. All the best to each and every one of you that tuned in. My sincere appreciation. That's why we do what we do. Pistons fall to the Magic. They'll try to bounce back against the Cavaliers on Monday night. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.